Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, boxing fans joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it is showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our lives to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We're rooting, and we go into that fight just to land on the line.
Boxing fans, this is the Rope-A-Dope Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Carlson. Welcome back. Hope everybody's doing okay. Obviously, relatively speaking, of course. And once again, I just want to, like I've been saying on all my podcasts, I just want to say that I really, really appreciate the listenership during this time. Like I said, I've always been saying that I just want to be a distraction for everyone as much as I can. And I appreciate everybody still putting out their content as well. It's keeping me busy as well. So my thoughts are out there, for the people that are essential workers, people working at hospitals, just anybody coming in contact or having to work right now, to be honest with you. Out in the public, not at home. Just anyone that's having a problem, money, financial stuff, whatever it is, my thoughts and heart go out to you, no doubt about it. But we're back for another one, folks. We are back, and we got a variety of items to talk about. Man, it will be great to preview and predict, won't it? To have a recap session, and I cannot wait for those days when we get to do that. Seriously, I'm so well. When I say seriously, if you're listening to a podcast in boxing, there's a good chance you're either a fanboy of like an interview or a fight, or you're a hardcore fight fan. That's normally who does it. So when I say seriously, you guys know what I mean. But seriously, I cannot wait. I suppose it would be a preview before it would be a recap, wouldn't it? I cannot wait, though. I cannot wait to do those shows. But anyway, I digress. Shouts out to ESPN for that. What was it, a 10 or 11-hour block? I didn't even know that last Tuesday. Otherwise, I would have said something just to pass it along. That was fun. Of course, I didn't sit there and watch every last second, but, man, I watched a variety of them. I was watching it with one of my nephews, or a couple of my nephews, just kind of, FaceTiming, watching it. And watched a good chunk of the first Ali Frazier. Watched some of the second. That's probably the it's still a good fight, but kind of the light part of that, But then that trilogy fight, man. Oh God, that was fun. That was a fun Saturday on and off. Focusing on that stuff. So, like I said, it's just all about taking your mind away from what's going on. You know what I mean? So we do have a variety of topics to talk about. I do want to, Deontay Wilder actually did the PBC podcast, and he said something about a surgery that he had, and that is really quite, shocking in a sense, right? Because you're like, wait a second, what? You had surgery on your bicep? We'll talk a little bit about more of that interview as well. That's one of those pods that I'm not going to play audio from, just because. But we're gonna get into it. There's been a lot of excuses after that fight. He said some other stuff, and then let on like there's more, but then let off the gas. It was really, really weird, dude. It was really, really weird. So I'll give you a little bit more detail and my take on that. Of course, it's getting to be a popular segment. I get a lot of feedback from the boxing Twitter, especially the Rick Glazer stuff, and so I got to give you some glaze. I'll give you some of that. Those are usually near the end of the show. Bob Arum had an interview not long ago through Top Rank, and he made a great point about the big fights and the ones that are going to really create a live revenue gate, and obviously even some on pay-per-view. So we'll talk about that and what are the chances those type of fights happen in 2020. We'll talk about Devin Haney's comment, which caused a little stir out in the Twitterverses about him saying that he will never lose to a white boy, but then he came right back and apologized. So does that mean he will lose to a white boy? I don't know. We'll talk a little bit about it. The title, one of the titles of the show, the first one is Terence Crawford a first ballot Hall of Famer right now? Meaning if he retired right now, would he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? And it's a two-part question, because on the surface, that's a silly question, right? Because everyone goes to like Gatti and some other names that probably shouldn't be in there, and then you point out some names that right now they should be already in, and they're not, right? But I want you to think of it as a two-part question. And this is something we brought up on the show from time to time. But the two-part section or question is, okay, so the first one seems obvious, right? But take that away. Take away Gatti. Take away all these guys that should be in or shouldn't be in. Just go straight up what you think of as a Hall of Fame fighter, what you think should be the credentials to get in. So it's a two-part question. Like I said, on the surface, seems like an easy question, but it is a two-part thing there. And so, I think it's actually a legitimate question. I know a lot of folks aren't going to like that question, especially, the Twitter guys, the fanboys, especially on Twitter. But that's okay. That's okay. He also talked about, he had an interview with Top Rank as well, or with ESPN actually. And he was talking some more silly stuff when it comes to that Spence fight and other stuff in general. Speaking of silly stuff, Amir Khan, Danny Garcia, among other folks, boxers, right, that are pushing this. Well, I shouldn't say pushing, but they're talking about this G5 rollout conspiracy thing, and that's, I'm saving that to the back end of the show. We're not going to talk about that much, but some of them you're just like, dude, what about the other facts? You know what I mean? So like I said, that's way in the back end there. So there's a variety of other items that we'll get to as well, like a TMT fighter talking about claiming that he's got Errol Spence next. Was that dude just trying to get some attention for coronavirus? Because a lot of people all of a sudden know his name now, Maurice Lee. But is it true? That I don't know. But anyway, so we'll definitely touch upon some of these topics and subjects and whatnot. But if this is your first time listening to the Rope It Up Radio podcast, it streams live right here on blogtalkradio.com/Rope It Up Radio. It streams live at Archives. It's basically the headquarters, okay? And obviously, Rope It Up Radio podcast started out as all boxing. We throw in football and basketball in there as well, just so you know. We'll have some draft talk, both NFL and Vikings, coming up here in the next several days. But if you don't want to go to Blog Talk and download it or listen to it in the browser or whatever, you can find the Rope It Up Radio podcast pretty much anywhere, whether it's Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Player FM, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, really all across the board. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found everywhere, including Spotify. I forgot to mention that. You can use your Siri or Alexa through TuneIn or Spotify to find the platform. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.com. They got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu, with the promo code TGT. That's thegruelingtruth.com. I post like prediction blogs and topical stuff there as well for football, boxing, and football and basketball throughout the year. And that's what it is. It's football, it's boxing, it's baseball, it's basketball, it's everything in between. And one more item before we get into some of this stuff. If you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you already have, obviously a lot of people watching, catching up on a lot of different series, or, exploring other documentaries. Obviously, everybody's tuned into The Last Dance, that Michael Jordan and Bulls documentary. But I got something for you. I actually use it myself. It's called AT&T TV Now. It's live streaming cable. It does have a 7-day free trial, and there's not going to be any annual contract that'll lock you down. The plans start as low as $55 a month. You can stream it anywhere. They do have the cloud DVR. And for boxing fans, Showtime's only $11 on that platform. It's called AT&T TV Now. It's live streaming cable. There is something else, though. If your internet is just downright garbage and very inconsistent, it's one thing to go to Netflix or go to Amazon and watch something that's just archived. But when you're on a live streaming platform, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, just like a live streaming ESPN Plus or DAZN, right? So if your internet, you're just in the part of the country that it's just bad or whatever, there is AT&T TV. That's the normal cable system. It's a growing network. It's not everywhere. It's here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's in New York, parts of Florida, parts of Texas, parts of California, all the way up in the Northwest in Seattle. Some other places like St. Louis in the Midwest. Basically, just Google it. Put your area code in there, see if you got it. That was AT&T TV. Otherwise, AT&T TV Now. That's live streaming cable. Okay, I'm going to get a little sip of water here, if you don't mind. Hope you don't mind that. Let's start with a couple items here, okay? Before we get into the Crawford stuff, or before we get into even the Devin Haney stuff, because there is a little bit more in depth, obviously, when it comes to that stuff, a little bit more detail. But let's talk about, Deontay Wilder, okay? It's going to be a short and sweet thing here. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, he was on the PBC podcast. And, he talked about it talked about a variety of stuff, obviously. But he talked about how he was feeling fight night, right? And he kept saying there's more to he kept, wanting to say something, but not. He's like, you know what? I don't want to say anymore. I don't really want to talk about it. Maybe at a different time, or maybe during, a interview setting when the fight's on and everything's up and going. And he said he'll tell more at some time, possibly, and whatever that means. Even he kept mentioning what happened in the 15 minutes before the fight, and he was vague with it. We know about the other excuses that he's made. I'm not going to go into that. And like I said, I always say with fighters, sometimes it's excuses, sometimes it's reasons, sometimes it is somewhere in between, right? But a lot of it, he just shouldn't have said anything, or at least get the camp going for the rematch, and then in the lead up, maybe then say it, because then it'll spark interest. But no matter what, it sparked a lot of interest. That is for sure. But he said he had a bicep surgery. And I think he said don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he said his left bicep. And he didn't say exactly when. He's been pretty open about other, when he's had hand surgeries and all that. I remember him saying that he did have surgery before the camp last time, or the first fight. So I don't know what he means. Did he hurt himself in the back room 15 minutes before and just said, screw it, I'm going out there? Because I thought it was the suit. Didn't his legs get, I don't know. He goes on to say that he felt like a zombie. And he just wasn't himself. He kept saying, I wasn't the Deontay Deontay Wilder that everybody knows, you know? And I don't know. He was real vague with it besides saying he has surgery. He had bicep surgery, and he said that it's like mid-May to late May he'll be able to start training again and using it and whatnot. So I've also heard, actually I think I said this already about the George Foreman thing. I heard a little rumors that he's going to have Mayweather in the camp. I don't know how much I believe that. I think that would help with the hype for the rematch stuff. That's for sure, just with Floyd's name attached to it. But I don't know, the zombie thing, this thing, I really don't know. Now, some people know this dude Fred, right? And he has a YouTube channel, and he says that, according to Fred, that he was drugged. Not only did he have the coronavirus, early in the camp or before the camp, started. Because remember, he was supposed to show up. This was this would have been right around the New Year. Because he was supposed to go to, I think he was supposed to go to Atlanta for one of the championship semifinals. Because Fury was in Arizona, I believe, and did an interview before and was shown during the game, like on the sidelines. And Wilder was supposed to be in Atlanta. And he was sick. He went to the hospital and all that. Well, the flu, I mean, if you go to the hospital for the flu or obviously this coronavirus, that obviously tells you it's serious. Before any of this coronavirus that we really knew of anyway hit the scene and whatnot here, and even started to go around, before we even knew how, serious it was. There is a possibility that, because he went to Italy, he did go to Italy before camp. And so could he have picked it up there and came back, got sick? Sure. But the whole drugged at, he was drugged in the fight. And I tried to listen as much as I could. Someone sent me his video when he was saying this. It's hard to listen to his whole show when it's that long. I have a long show, I'm not saying that. But where he goes, I just don't agree with a lot of his points. So it is hard to listen to it that long. But I tried to. And people were showing me clips or sending me clips as far as where it was, the range of what he was talking about. But he kept saying, like, he had the coronavirus. Okay, that's debatable. But, yeah, he was in Italy. So there's a potential. I don't know if he's ever had a flu where he turned himself into the hospital. So I'm not saying that couldn't be true. And that would, what a way to start a camp having the flu anyway, let alone something even more serious as the coronavirus. So, yeah, okay, I get that part. But, and I'm not vouching for it saying, yeah, it is. But I can at least go down that path because, yeah, sure, that makes sense. He did go to Italy after all, right? But to say he was drugged in the fight but not explain it, it's just like a lot of part-time media and media members for that matter, but especially the part-time media members out there, to bring up something and not give a detailed story of why you think he was drugged. Like, you just say, well, he didn't feel himself. Well, maybe, if he had the coronavirus before the camp started, then he was weighed down from the suit, and he had a hurt, what was it again? Bicep. Well, then, wouldn't that make you look not yourself? Does it have to be he got drugged? So if you bring up he got drugged, you got to give some proof or some detail, dude. And so I don't, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm just going to leave it there. I just don't. I can't bring up someone that got drugged and run with it and keep saying it in a video or a podcast and not give any proof to it or any layers to it. It's ridiculous. right? It's completely ridiculous. So anyway, that's that. Maybe we'll find out more. Maybe we won't. I don't know. Interesting. Real quick, that TMT, the money team, Maurice, is it Maurice? I think it's Maurice Lee. He claims to say he's got Spence next. So that would be like a tune-up, right? That's basically what he said. It's basically like a tune-up. So, you know, you know what I mean? I don't know. The way Spence made it sound, and also, by the way, the WBC, the way it made it sound that Danny Garcia's next. Now, there is a possibility that maybe, just maybe, the fight has been further postponed rather than September, October, because that's what Errol Spence did say prior. You know, he did say that, you know, my next fight, I mean, he said Pacquiao or other guys, Pacquiao, Garcia, but it wasn't even, it was Danny Garcia, basically. And it really always has been, because that's, after all, who he was going to fight in January till he did somersaults in his Lambo. So if you look at the PBC structure and how, you know, Danny's already faced Thurman and Porter, it does make sense to face him now before he loses another rematch and get that one over with as a quality opponent, but maybe not, of course, the upper echelon, top, tippy top of it, right? Because he did lose the Porter and Thurman. So it's still just, all right, get that out of the way. It is a name. They could do it really anywhere, but they could do that, obviously, at the Barclays. It would do a huge show. So I don't know. But maybe, I mean, right when it happened, a lot of people thought he'd tune up. I mean, not right when it happened. People thought he was dead, for Christ's sakes. But you know what I mean? Like, once we found out he was okay, then a lot of people kind of just assumed he'd tune up, because you took a lot of punishment. You were in the hospital a long time, really. And he said he was sore in so many areas, his ribs, like his just whole body took, you know, a lot of beating in a sense, right? So it was aches and pains, and eternally, you know, internally, you really could do some damage, and that's what we are all kind of wondering. Like, all right, well, just how hurt is this guy? So a lot of us just assumed that he was going to tune up against a lesser opponent. And then when we heard him come back and say, I'm ready for a better opponent like Danny Garcia or even a Pacquiao, I never really thought the Crawford fight would happen next, obviously. So the earliest, before this coronavirus took over, the earliest I thought it would be is February, because maybe that would be part of the roll, you know, the red carpet rollout with Fox and ESPN. But anyway, what it could mean, and this is another topic that I want to get to before I get to my main two topics, and of course that's Devin Haney with the white boy, you know, stuff, and then Crawford, about Crawford being a Hall of Famer or not, or yes, or borderline, or whatever. It could kind of go into what Bob Arum was saying with Christina Poncher. I had some Red Bull, and it was a mistake. I mixed it with some tea. Big mistake, man. I got to stop doing that. I just thought I was tired. Well, I am. But anyway, you know, Bob did an interview, and he said this before, too, with some other folks, but I want to give Poncher the credit here. In June or July, it's very likely that they're going to return with no audiences. Obviously, with Florida deeming WWE as essential, it sounds like UFC was knocking on the door there. It sounds like they want to go live at some point in their own facility. the UFC. And also, Top Rank does have a gym there, so they could use that. And he also talked about how he's going to open up the gym and get trainers, trainers, of course, but fighters in there and out of there to try to get them to train, too, for some of these fights, because that's a big thing. Like, okay, so we can do this, we can do that, but every state's different, so some are ahead of each other, some are not, some are opening, whatever, but where do I train, and where does my opponent train, and then where do I get the sparring partners and all that? So, basically, and that's why I'm kind of blending it into the Bob Arum information, about the big fights. And we talked about this minorly, but it really hits home. He said there's a great chance that Lomachenko and Lopez won't happen this year in 2020. And a lot of it has to do with the live gate. So, if you rely on $1 million plus live gate to pay some of these fighters, and then obviously a pay-per-view too, that's not going to happen if you don't have fans in there, right? So how do you pay these guys big money if you don't have that revenue stream? Now, some people say, Chris, pay-per-view, dude, it's going to do huge. And I understand that. I mean, when this pay-per-view were to happen, let's say, and he's saying, no earlier than the fall, and they're saying that with Wilder and Fury, and most are saying it can be pushed back further, well, people will be back working more and not be in quarantine and not being at home as much. And they may have to do a variety of other stuff that they weren't able to do then rather than sitting home. So, and not to mention some folks that are essential workers that aren't getting extra money. They got a check, but, they aren't getting extra money. So some of them have been working more hours. Some people have been working less hours that are essential workers. Some have been working more. If you're on salary and you've been working more hours, well, that's going to grind you as well. So, and then we don't have to bring up the unemployment, right? And if you are unemployed, like myself right now, you just hope that, the situation with the bar I work at, we're able to, we're a brewery too. So we're a smokehouse and a brewery. So we can sell beer in a growler, and we can also sell our food to go. You can either walk in or use a to-go service. So, we don't have as much overhead right now as we normally would. So you can survive a little bit longer there. But there's a lot of restaurants that are not going to come back. There's restaurants that'll try to come back and fail. There's restaurants already that have been open for, 18, 20 years that aren't coming back. They've already announced it. So, I go back to my job. Well, wonder if I go back to my job and all these other people, just using me as an example, go back to their jobs and they're not making as much money. So that whole pay-per-view thing, like, oh, it's going to go bananas. Yes and no. Yes and no. But breaking down a fight like Wilder and Fury, that's not going to happen if you can't do a live gate, because they make almost $17 million off that gate. So, yeah, they're going to need that income. They're going to need that. Lomachenko and Lomachenko and Lopez. I from the sounds of it early on, it seemed like it was actually going to be, on ESPN Plus. The negotiations were still going on. I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, Teofimo Lopez saying that, Loma's actually looking for $7 or $8 million. His words. Not Loma's, but Lopez's. And if he wants $7 or $8 million for that fight, that has to be on pay-per-view. You'd assume, So especially when you're losing a bunch of money right now, it's harder to go to ESPN or use funds that you're like, well, that could be on ESPN Plus, like the Fury fights, right? Paying them a minimum of $10 million, maybe even more, to go on those ESPN Plus fights last summer. wasn't really a payoff, but remember, they had a potential big payoff, and then beyond that, with Fury, where's their big pay-per-view per se with the winner? We don't know. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why it's pay-per-view. But if that is pay-per-view, and they're depending on that, then you might as at this point right now, I don't know if I'd. And then same with, I mean, let's just theoretically, it's not going to happen. But Spence and Crawford, well, that fight's definitely not going to happen for a while. I mean, it wasn't going to already, but. If you need, I mean, they really need it. If both of them need that kind of money for it, which you can't blame them, well, then that fight's not happening. I mean, it may not have happened already without that February date where they could push on Fox and ESPN. But judging by the rematch and what it did, which it really did, and I'm talking about Wilder Fury rematch, ESPN and Fox, it did a hell of a number considering neither of them got a torch passing. So, but I don't know. The more I think about it, first of all, you have to make up fights. So all the fights that were scheduled mid-March, April, and May, and even June, you got to, because they have contracts. You know what I mean? And the contract stipulates certain stuff. So the fighters I'm speaking of. So you gotta deliver. You know, you gotta deliver. Now, on a hardcore boxing fan note, I don't know. I mean, some of this is kind of interesting because you hear like, well, you know, maybe they will go like back to back, and there'll be more cards overall. You know, that would be great. Right? That would be phenomenal. But which I could see that taking place because they got to make up for it. If they actually want to hit their quota and they want to get all the money, they got to do something there. So I don't know, man. I'm starting to think that we're going to be really happy with what we got in a lot of ways because of the constant stream of fights. I mean, let's be honest. Here in America with DAZN and Fox and ESPN and Showtime, we had a card every weekend anyway. And we kind of had that for a while anyway, right? Really since the PBC came along and scheduled those 45 events or whatever. We've had way more of, boxing. So on one hand, it's going to be great. And remember, some of these, what we think of as a hardcore fight fan is a marquee matchup, but I'm using the word, loosely. Marquee, but a fight that we really care about, that might still happen, and a fair amount of those might still happen. It's just, the bigger ones that are going to be on pay-per-view, the more I look at this. And then not to mention, if basketball does come back, NBA, and it's NBA playoffs, and then college football and the NFL start, where exactly? Yeah, you could say, well, there's a lot of places to advertise, sure, but it's also like, damn, that's going to be tough to find those Saturdays then. And it may be doing it since it's not an audience this summer. Maybe it will be doing it on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Toe-to-toe Tuesdays, bring them back. So. I think Bob is speaking some truth here, dude. I mean, Bob was talking about this in February, the coronavirus, because, he had had some experience with China with it. And, he had obviously canceled that fight that I was looking forward to, that Ramirez-Postol fight. But he said, I really wouldn't make any plans for much right now. It's tough to say, So they got to be really happy that they got that Wilder and Fury fight off, dude. But anyway, yeah, I mean, God, when I look at it, we really got to see how this whole opening up process, where we're at testing by the end of this month, by the end of May, by June, you know what I mean? It's too early to say I 100% agree with them. It is too early for that, I'd say, but, man, I don't know, dude. I'm starting to think like, yeah, those fights aren't going to happen, dude. There's no way they're going to happen. Now, I shouldn't say the word no way. That's 2 words, by the way. But you probably already know that because you can count. But, Saudi Arabia, other places where they can stage fights. Taiwan, just to bring it up, is starting their basketball league up. I know Japan was starting their boxing mid to late May is what they're looking at. And some basketball leagues there. South Korea kind of slow rolled their basketball league. They were going to do it. Then they had a just real minor little uptick. So they're like, well, hold on. Let's just make sure, that type of thing. So, I don't think right now I'm getting the feeling that those big fights won't happen. And what's that mean, for the PBC on Fox 4 pay-per-views a year? I don't know. Maybe they will be going, hey, let's go to Saudi Arabia. Hey, let's do it. Screw it. Let's just do it because we got to do it. Whatever. I really don't know. But, man, especially like a cross-promotional where they're both risking money, I don't think – not that everybody was super pumped about it, but, fight week, a lot of people changed their mind. The Wilder Fury fight in September, October, what they have for October, tentatively scheduled. Boy, oh boy, I don't know. It's too early to tell. It is too early to tell. Well, speaking of just money and fighting and all that stuff, before we get to Devin Haney and Terence Crawford, I don't know. Terence is saying a couple of things. Now, that just kind of make me go, well, that that song, Things That Make You Go, Yeah, there's some things. There's some things. And like the Keith Idec interview, where he says, the quote is, they have to pay me more money to fight without fans, which doesn't really add up. It's kind of misleading, too, because it says, this is the beginning of the article, Terence Crawford understands that it might be necessary for his next fight to take place inside of an almost empty venue, right? That's what he said. But then, or that's what it says, I should say. But then in quotes, the first quotes are from Crawford, and this is off of the Chris Mannix Sports Illustrated podcast. Well, I haven't heard of that yet. Like, what do you mean you haven't heard of it yet? That now, I know he's a boxing fan, and we see him at a lot of fights, but to be fair, he could be just out in his own little world. That's what it made it sound like. Like, he doesn't even think that there's anything going on anyway, really, that anybody has to worry about. So I can understand just kind of being, off the internet to an extent and not paying attention. But for him, for a quote to say, well, I haven't heard that yet. Like, you haven't heard that there might be fights instead of with no crowds? It's just kind of weird. But he says, but at the same time, if it happens, then they have to pay me more. They have to pay me more because fighters of my status, on my level, we get paid for people that comes through that comes there as well. So, if I can't get paid off people coming, what's this? Oh, shoot, I missed it. Skipped ahead. If I can't, get paid off people coming, then I'm going to have to get paid up front. They got to pay me. You go out there, you risk your life. I'm not going to, because it ain't free. Just like people got to pay, to do anything else in the world, you got to pay us fighters because, the risk, the big risk, health risk at the same time, you can't play boxing. One false move and it's 6 feet deep. And it's true, you can die, of course. Definitely. No matter, blah, blah, Crawford won't accept less money than his contract is guaranteed, which I wouldn't expect him to let, his contract's guaranteed. No, I'm not ready to do that. I took less money, almost my whole career just because I knew where I was trying to do now and what I was trying to accomplish. So we did that in the past. So these are some of the quotes from there. But that really doesn't ring, that true. Because, well, first of all, I wonder how much money he gets paid off of his purse. I'm not saying he does, or off of his gate. I'm not saying he doesn't, because obviously he does. But I just wonder how much of it. If he's already got a $3 million or $4 million potentially guaranteed, well, how much is he making off of that? Or is it in fine print that the part of the guarantee is that? I don't know. But if there's not going to be live gate revenue, then you can't get paid off the live gate revenue. It seems pretty basic. And he'll probably have another thing coming. He even says in other interviews that, I'll just wait then. I'll just wait. And that's cool. That makes sense if that's what you want to do. That's cool too. I'm not ripping that part at all. But, it's just kind of like it's a little misleading. It's a little strange. Let's just put it that way. It's a little strange because it's like, well, I mean, it's not like a ton of your money is coming from, the gate, because he's only done one gate over $1 million. He's had a couple that were close, but like, how many? Like, if it does $1 million gate, so let's say he fights in Nebraska, does 900,000 or $1 million or 800,000, whatever. How much of that does he get? And so who's supposed to take the loss there then? Who's supposed to take the loss? You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like, I don't get that part. But, it is what it is, and that's his feeling. And I'm not trying to rip Crawford, but he's the one saying this stuff. When it comes to, I have been getting some feedback saying, well, you only bring up this guy, or you only bring up that guy. Well, if you're on audio and, I'll use your quotes, or I'll play the audio. Kind of matters the audio, because you can get it pulled and stuff like that. So, but I played Spence when he was drunk. I mentioned it multiple times. I'm mentioning it right now. I played the Spence thing when he came out and said, like, remember at the Showtime fight, he said, on the 8 side, you got to come to me, all that stuff. And it was funny to hear him talk shit finally. It was like, oh, when he's drunk, he'll talk shit, Because he hasn't really been the hugest shit talker unless you talk to him, right? So it's I don't know. But maybe it just kind of blends together. Maybe it kind of blends together because, he still thinks, and I played this clip too a while back, this is like 2 years ago maybe, when it looked like, although lesser drunk than Spence, it did kind of look like he had a buzz, Crawford. I wasn't sure, though. And he was, like, heading into a fight. So maybe he did have a little buzz on. And I'm not ripping fighters for when they're out of camp. You drink some, party a little bit, release. I'm not ripping that at all. It's the ones that won't get into camp. Like, what? You could actually go back into light training, work on your skills, and drink on Saturday night, take Sunday off, go back in the gym on Monday. I'm not saying that, but it's the ones that also do it during a camp, But anyway, but the reason why I bring up that, because he said, he needs me more than I need, like all those guys, but Spence too. He needs me more than I need him. I'm already in the Hall of Fame, and I'm the A side. And he said that before, which he's clearly not the A side, but here he is again. Okay, this is from Cameron Wolf, ESPN staff writer who just popped in now. Not as a writer, don't get me wrong. I'm saying it looks like this might be the guy that they're using, not replacing Dan Raphael, because it's just a, staff writer right now. But, kudos to Wolf here. But, there's some funny stuff. They go back and forth. He's entitled to feel his way. This is them talking about who would win. Because remember, Spence is like, I'd wash him. And he said that, I expect him to say that because, I'm going to kick his ass. And the funniest line I think Crawford said is that panty line. Pull your, did he say that on TMZ? Pull your panties pull your panties up or something like that. I don't know. That, or take your panties off or something like that. That shit was funny. That shit was really funny. That may have been some of the funniest stuff. And he's been really good recently on Twitter, more like on Crawford. You know, he really has. I'll give him credit there. But it goes down to, once again, it all comes down to money. You know, who's going to be the A side, who's going to get the higher percentage. And I just wonder now more and more, like, have they actually, what Bob said, and even Spence said kind of, like they have actually focused in on a structure of what the deal can be right now. Bob said that, and also when they were going back and forth, Spence and Crawford, Spence said you already know what it takes to make this fight. So does that mean 60-40? Does that mean you got to come to Fox alone? I don't know what that means, but I'm starting to think maybe he hasn't liked the terms. But that's just based off him repeating this thing again and again. He's got to know he's not the A side. Sorry, it'll still be his career high money, but he's definitely not the A side here. It's not ripping him. He looks like the more versatile fighter, but that doesn't make you the A side. Remember, Mayweather used to say that Larry Merchant would give him a bunch of shit. He'd be like, I should be the highest paid guy. I should be this. I should be that. And off skill, yeah, I get it. I get it, Floyd. You should be. You're the pound. You should be the pound for pound. You should be this. You should. I get all that. Obviously, at that time when he was saying that, he had accomplished more than, with more than Crawford with the caliber of opponent. He goes on to say, Crawford believes he has proved more in boxing than Spence, okay? And he deserves to be the A side. Yet his lack of braggadocious bravado, is something that pundits claim, that hold him back. And I don't know that 100%. And the only reason why I say that is because it's not like Spence is out here constantly doing a Broner or even a Floyd. So it's not just that. It's really about him doing more interviews. And you got to give him credit because he's actually stepped that up. And like I said, on social media, he's really stepped up his game there. So I think he's really close to being okay with what he does there. But sometimes it just, you know what it is? If you don't have the obvious shit. If you don't have Oscar, if you don't have Floyd, and you didn't have Pacquiao, maybe you'll get him, but you didn't get Pacquiao when he was with you. Not you, but Top Rank. You gotta, in this day and age, you gotta expose to the general public. Try to do it on network. He's done that now. He's had some good numbers there. That's for sure. And then you gotta fight people that people know, like Danny Garcia at the Barclays. That shit would do a big gate. It'd do the biggest gate he's ever been involved with. And it's a name. And he beat him. So that's what I'm talking about. Or Porter, coming right off a Porter fight. Fight his ass. Measuring stick with Spence. Beat him 9-3. Oh, look, I handled him easier. He didn't hit me all that time. Blah, blah, blah. That helps you too. You got to fight some more marquee names right now. That's just how you do it. The exposure and that gets you up. Now, some guys just aren't going to catch. It is what it is. I get that, but I don't think he has to go out here and just be a dick or Broner, like I said, because Spence isn't being Broner, right? And Mayweather of late has said that he thinks Crawford's pound for pound. Because remember, like in 2015, he said he's next up to Spence. That's also when he was trying to sign him to Mayweather Promotions. But anyway, so he also, and I agree with him here, he says, why should I have to sell my soul to please and entertain somebody that don't give a F about me? That's really fair. We're in the entertainment business. I feel like once I'm in the ring, it's entertainment. I'm about showing rather than telling. But, when he gets in the ring, and then after the fight, he loves to go, did you get what you're looking for? And he loves to talk shit like that, so he's good at that. But the only problem is when they do ask him at times, you got to admit, And this is not talking shit. This isn't being this over-the-top Broner character. But you got to call out names right after a fight. Sometimes he's been in front of this, maybe not gigantic. Sure, somebody will call me out on the PBC side there. But a very large audience, almost 3 million. And you should be listening dudes. You should be listening dudes at that point. Not saying it gets you the fight, but it gets people, turning. Like, oh, so this is the dude that they won't fight. Okay, that's what people think and say, And if it's not happening, then there you go. So, I don't know. I don't know. I get what he's saying, but I don't think it's only that. It's who you fought, too. Crawford is tired of hearing people tell him he can't market himself or use his mouth, blah, blah, blah. When I'm in the ring, I'm going to beat your ass. Let's do it. I'm saying I'm going to F you up, blah, blah, blah. But Crawford understands the biggest knock on him is the marquee names he has fought. His biggest names, Khan, Gamboa, Horn, Postal as well is a pretty good name there. Not name, but you know what I mean. So, and here's what the funny part is, and of course the Twitter fanboys, they won't mention this, but I'll say Pacquiao first because, he doesn't have much longer in the sport. And I want that name on my resume. Then Spence. So he wants, rightfully so, just like Spence wanted Pacquiao first. And I don't mind this because it makes sense, dude. It makes that fight bigger. And both of these guys, the whole marinating thing, I understand that, especially for fights that aren't worthy for a marination, like a 2-year marination, right? I get that. But one thing is, when you're dealing with two tippy-top level guys, which we are with Crawford and Spence, they're probably not going to lose. So actually, a lot of times in these type of matchups, when they actually make them, it does usually peak. And we've seen that. So I'm against marinating fights that don't need to be overly marinated. But I also get what he's saying. And that's why I never rip both of them crazy. Because it's like, well, you want Pacquiao first. He's saying that right now. Of course you do. And obviously it's a different situation too. But, I don't know, man. He goes on to say other stuff. And even in other interviews that why is it just me that gets, called out for not having enough names on my resume? Why is it just me? And it's like, dog, it's definitely not just, like you. Come on, dude. It's definitely not just you. You're not the only one who gets shit. I mean, Danny Garcia gets a ton of shit for cherry picking, but look at his resume. And I know the whole, now it's been skewed on Twitter. Oh, but there's a win resume. Oh, so throw resumes out. We got to respect, on one hand they'll say, oh, we got to respect all these fighters. And when the best fight the best, top level against top level, you got to appreciate it and respect it and then move on. You can't sit there and say, oh, they took a loss and hold it over their head all day, right? But when a guy like Danny Garcia does cherry pick at times, no doubt, but when you look at his resume and when you look at certain stuff, even Thurman, I mean, the dude's gone, he took time off because he was hurt. And I understand. I gave him some shit when it sounded like he didn't want Spence right now. I did back then. But when you go Porter, Garcia, Jose Cito Lopez in a comeback fight after almost 2 years, and then Pacquiao, that's not a bad run there, is it? That's not really ducking too many people, is it? So, I don't know. It's like resume, but it's only a win resume. Well, I'm not putting Danny Garcia in front of Crawford because he's fought more people, and that's the only reason why. Because, yeah, he did lose. I wouldn't put him ahead of him at 147 because he's already shown he's just a notch below those guys. So, I don't know what to tell you. but he's definitely not the A side, and it starts to feel like potentially, even though it's always been most people saying Spence just doesn't want the fight right now, and I've explained how that makes sense businessly to go down the line and clear it out, and he even said it. He said it right to Terence's face. They said, why wouldn't I just clear out my side and then we can unify? And it makes sense to try to get Pacquiao first. Get all the belts. He's got one belt. All right, now come get me. I got the A side. I got all the belts, yada, yada, yada. And obviously that'd make it that much bigger too. But I could see the Crawford side wanting the Pacquiao because then they got two belts. They got a bigger name now. I'm not saying they'd for sure be bigger than Spence because we don't know. But, it's his best name by far. It would definitely help him a whole lot. So they're thinking, well, let's get that. Then I got two belts. You got two belts. Who else are you going to fight? You going to fight all these dudes for no belts? Okay. So it's a leverage game. But a lot of it has been Spence don't want it. But Crawford himself has said Spence isn't ducking him. And he says really similar stuff. But you notice the emphasis isn't on anything to do with Porter. And I'm not saying he's ducking him. I just think that they want to get that Spence fight and then get it and then have all the belts, or most of them, right? And the leverage, and then be like, well, I beat you. You made me a bigger name. Now I'm in control. Now I'll fight the Thurman. Now I'll fight the Porter. Just like on the other side. Why not clear out some of that side? Yada, yada, yada. Okay. He is not the A side, though. Sorry. I love Terence Crawford. I really do. He's just not the A side. Sorry. He's just not. So, I'm going to save that Crawford thing. Well, I'm just going to go. Screw it. I'll talk Devin Haney. We'll talk about Amir Khan and speaking of Danny Garcia and others in the boxing world that, say, no, this is a G5 rollout conspiracy. And I'm sure my guy Portland will want to jump in on this potentially too. So we'll talk about that and some other stuff, down the line here. But let's talk about that Crawford. Okay, so it's a two-part question. Is Terence Crawford a Hall of Famer if he retired today? Is he a Hall of Famer if he retired today? First ballot, done deal. Is he that? Right now. And then the second part of the question, which I think is important, is take away, because so many people go right to Gatti. Well, Gotti's in there, he needs to get there. Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. There's people that are in there. Gatti stands out. There's some other people that are in there that should be in there. And guys should be in there that are on the ballot. Some guys should be on the ballot. And some guys aren't even on the ballot to get into the Hall of Fame. That should clearly be on the ballot. Maybe some of that has to do with the guys, that should be in that are on the ballot. They're not in. So now it bumps off another layer. Right? So I could say a variety of names, but I like to focus on Gatti because of where his skill level was in entertainment and all that. The criteria for the Hall of Fame is not crazy difficult. Now, when you start to measure it up with the millions of people, billions of people in the world, right, and being even a top 20 boxer at your weight class, it's phenomenal at the end of the day as an athlete boxer, of course. I'm going beyond that stuff, though, guys. This is a little bit deeper. And, I like my Hall of Famers to have fought another Hall of Famer. Or a bunch of guys who we thought were top-level guys, and he just separated himself. Right? So I think that take away what the Hall of Fame credentials is right now, and when you think of Hall of Fame, when you think of what a criteria should be, then answer it. Don't think of Gotti. Don't think any of that stuff. Just answer it then like, okay, break it down. Now, obviously, the 3 belts is damn good, right? Obviously. Well, not 3 belts. 3 weight classes, sorry. I just disrespected him there. I did not mean to do that. Because he got 4, right there. So, on the surface, before I go into his stuff, on the surface, yeah, just to answer the question, I answered it right off the bat, actually, at the beginning of the show. The first part of the question is, yeah, he should be. If Gotti's in there, he's in there. 3 division weight classes, champion, unified 140. Yeah, he's in there. He's unbeaten. And, he's had just a couple of tough fights. I should say a couple of tough rounds. He's only had one really, really tough fight, and he ended up winning by knockout. And that was Gamboa, obviously. So, yeah, when I look at, a guy like Gatti and others that are in there or are going to get in there, yeah, for sure. For sure. He should be in there. He should be in there. Now, when I really look at, let's take away all of it. It's just, and this is where a lot of people don't like what I have to say about this stuff. I remember a lot of people didn't like when I hold off on Golovkin from being, a pound for pound guy, or he could easily just wax Sergio Martinez. And I'm talking about prime Sergio Martinez. Obviously, there's a reason why Lou didn't want to put him in there with him after a while. He had already fought a lot of dudes. And, he was done, really, to be honest. So, yeah, I'm not saying, Martinez wasn't, they tried to fight him, and he refused to fight. Golovkin refused to fight. That's not what I'm saying. But it just takes me a while. I can't call you the best fighter until you have. And, by the way, I don't have Errol Spence in the Hall of Fame. I don't have him there. And I don't have a ton of guys that are active right now in the Hall of Fame. I'm not some sort of crazy boxing historian. I've said that numerous times. I'm not going to debate some historical stuff over and over again. Even the ones that some people on Twitter think they're very knowledgeable, but then when you look into boxing historians and how much arguments they have, even in the same time frame that they're around, based off the knowledge that they have by reading so much, talking to people, yada, 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 it is what it is. Right? It is what it is. But, he's got good bets on his record. Ricky Burns on the road, that was like, 9-3? Something like that, 8-4, 9-3, maybe less, maybe more. I don't remember. It was a while ago now. I don't remember my scorecard exactly, but that was a good win. Even Beltran, that's a good win. He was going for the knockout and got hurt really badly in that fight, but he dominated him. Thomas Delorme, that's a good win. That's one of those fights where he did get hit early, and then he finished him off. And he did that with a fair amount of guys, considering where he's at, ranked at the top pound for pound. And that was kind of always holding me back from saying he's a top 3 pound for pound guy or something. I mean, being that Floyd and Manny and Andre Ward and these guys were in that held me off too, right, at the time. But I still didn't want to just say, yeah, for sure, because he did get he got hit too much for me to call him a pound for pound dude. You know what I mean? But it's also the style he was fighting in. But the Victor Postol fight, let's talk about Felix Diaz. Indongo was undefeated. Horn is a solid win. Benavidez, okay. Green Machine. I'm going to call him Green Machine. Mean Machine. Okay. Amir Khan at that stage, hey, took care of him. No, that's for damn sure. But really, we all know that his biggest fights. I mean, Jeff Horn was a good fight. The whole man that beat the man, I don't agree because I didn't score it that way. But it's interesting. It's an interesting topic here. But you look at Gamboa was undefeated when they met. at 135. That's a damn good win because you took an O. You know, that was a damn good fight, too. Gamboa put on one of his better performances. And, you know, I've always said that, you know, lightweight wasn't a great weight for him. And he did hit the deck a bunch, but he looked damn good in that fight, didn't he? And then, obviously, Victor Postol as well. Undefeated guy at that time, coming off a solid win over Matisse. Matisse, I don't know where he was at in that fight with the eye and all that, but, hey, he beat him. And he used a great jab. He brought, you know, him down to his knee and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It was a really good performance. And, you know, that's a separator. Because that first round they gave to Postol, then Crawford just went off. And not went off in the fight, but you know what I mean? Clear punching. He was on the move. He showed us something that he hadn't showed us ever really for that long of a fight, to be able to fight on the outside like that and be that versatile. Like I said, he likes to mix it up. Actually, you know what? We're knee deep in some of this stuff. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Carcino and bring him into the fold here. What's going on, Carcino? How the hell are you, buddy?
I'm hanging in there. You know, it's today's been like a weird day. So it's like so much stuff that's been happening today. It's just been crazy. Like, it's been my friend's wife. I guess she's bored, and she's got caught into nostalgia with all these old photos, and she's got like this whole thread, and I'm going through my boxes, and I was cleaning up, and she sidetracked me with all this digging up old photos, and now here I am digging up old photos and stuff and sending them to her.
It's funny how when you get down that rabbit hole, I've done that recently too, where you're like, wow, oh, I haven't seen this. Oh, my God, I haven't seen that. And then it just starts to spark the memories, too, you know. The memories
and then I got
away.
thousands of pictures, thousands, and a thing. And next thing you know, I'm sitting there, all the pictures of her and her husband, and I'm going through all these pictures, old girlfriends, and you know, mine, it's like a lot of boxing. I got Shane Mosley, his wife, Manuel Stewart photos. So I'm like, oh, man, look at these. You know, me and Roy Jones. I'm like, oh, man. You know, so it's a whole different world in there for me. I got a picture of Justin Bieber and his dog. I'm like, it's just random photos that just popping up out of the blue.
Bieber's dog.
Like,
Bieber and his dog.
Justin Bieber,
that's funny.
when he just got his dog. I was like, oh, wow, I got a photo of this? I mean, it's so many crazy photos, and it's a funny one of E.J. Smith. It's hilarious because it was in Sergio Mora. Oh, that was key photos. Because I'm like, that's Sergio Mora. I went right up to him and told him he lost to Peter Manfredo in the Contender, and my cousin was like, I've never seen anybody do what you just did. He went right to a fighter and told him he lost. You know, normally somebody like, hey, you know, I'm glad to meet you. You know, hey, you're a great fighter. You went right up to somebody, look, dude, they robbed Peter and gave you that fight. You know, and it's like, and then he was still cool enough to still take a picture with you and talk with you. Like, how did you do that? And I was like, I just was telling him the brutal, honest truth. You know, that's how I felt. I felt he did not win that second fight, and he was like, well, I wish they showed the whole fight. They just showed you highlights. He's like, I know I beat him. He's like, you know, it could go either way, but I didn't get beat down like you trying to say. I'm like, look, you lost that fight big. But, yeah, I'm looking at it. It's amazing how, and that's why I took a lot of photos, because when I was young, my uncle always told me, you know, you can look at a photo and it helped your memory. And that's why I remember things so well. And people are like, how do you tell stories so like you remember it yesterday? Because I was like, I took a lot of pictures. And I was like, this is why my grandma's
that is true.
So strong.
That's very true on your videos, dude. You'll have them going for like 50 minutes, and you'll just keep going. That's a good point. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, and that's because of pictures. I can look at one picture and remember the entire day. I can remember almost what I ate, what happened, the stories that happened the rest of that day just by looking at one photo. I'll be like, oh, I remember this day. This is the day that this happened. It was some graduation. We went there. We had that car. It was just raggedy. And I don't know how we pushed it, but we got that car all the way out there. And I was like, it's amazing. Just looking at this pictures. And I was with Nate Jones. Floyd Mayweather wanted Nate to go pick up his cousin or something. And I had to go out that way with him. And we had to go out to Southern Illinois, SIU. Oh, my God. And I was like, man, I got to go out to SIU to drop my friend off. And I was like, so it's on the way. We can go get the guy. And sure enough, we go all the way out there. And Floyd Mayweather called and said, you know what? F him. Leave him out there. I'm like, we're like on the road. It's a 5-hour drive. 3 hours in, you talking about, you know what? F him. Leave him out there. I don't know what conversation he had with his cousin or whatever, but it went left. And Floyd called like, you know what? F him. Leave him there. And he's like, Floyd, we 3 hours in on a 5-hour drive. He was like, man, just turn around and go back. You saved 2 hours. He's like, why drive another 2 hours and then you got to drive 5 going back? So you just save time. Turn around and go back. But I'm like, I got to go to SIU anyway because I got to drop my buddy off now. So now we're stuck going because my buddy's here. So I'm like, we going anyway. I got to take my buddy there. So Floyd was like, look, don't bring him back. Whatever you do, leave him there. Don't bring him back. Do not bring my cousin back. So we're sitting there, and the cousin, I drop him off and everything. The cousin sees Nate, because I told Nate to just stay in the car. He didn't listen. He gets out of the car. The cousin comes right over and finds him at the university. Like, oh, y'all ready to pick me up? He's like, man, I don't know what it is. He's like, Stone said, Nate called him Stone. Stone said you got to stay here. He was, what? He's like, yeah, man. He said, you got to stay here. I don't know. What did he tell you? He was like, he told me you guys were coming to get me. So he called him back. He's like, trying to get Floyd back on the phone. He's like, yeah. He was like, did you tell them not to come get me? He's like, no, I didn't tell them that at all. He's like, well, Nate right here. He's like, well, then get in the car then and go with him. It's the weirdest thing. I'm like, why is he telling us not to take this guy with him? But that's how Floyd operates. Floyd, when it was like confrontation, he would not want to get in this confrontation. What he wanted us to do was to turn around and go back and not have to even face the cousin or anything. But once we got out there and had to face him, he was like, don't let him back. Then once he saw him and Nate was there and the cousin called him, he's like, oh, I didn't tell him that. Well, yeah, get in the car and go back with him. It's the craziest thing ever. And I'm like, I don't know what their problem was with the cousin, but they had some sort of falling out. And it was funny because years later, like, it's the same cousin 50 Cent and Floyd Mayweather got into it with. And they're saying it in the text message. He's like, you got a snitch working for you or whatever. When he had that rant against 50 Cent, he's like, champ, that guy's your cousin, your blood cousin. So what are you talking about? That's the same guy. I think his name's Corey or something. But yeah, it's the same guy. It's hilarious. And I'm like, dude, this is the same guy. I don't know what kind of relationship Floyd has with him, but Floyd has always did this conniving, backstabbing thing. You know, he backstabs a lot of people that's even close to him. It's hilarious to watch him operate.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he took P. Rilla's girl right in front of him. It was a nice swim.
I was going to bring up that example, actually.
Yeah. He just
so,
ran out with the girl.
Or it'd just be like, you don't see that dude anymore around too much. Oh, yeah, that's because he took his girl. He's like, okay, shit. That's not that cool.
Yeah,
that's
man.
fun.
So, as far as the boxing is going on, man, I've been so out of the loop. I talked to Bob Arum, and Bob Arum's telling me that they're supposed to be doing some shows in Phoenix, Arizona, like just putting on some cards without fights, and then there's certain areas that they could probably fight out of the United States, and, where they could get licensed to do it. But it's going to be, tricky and maneuvering around and getting people in camps, because he said we could do fights without, nobody in the stands and just put on fights. But he's like, it's hard because, you got a referee, you got the officials, you got the crew, you got judges, you got all these. So it's like the capacity limit that they want is going to be a lot of people there. So they got to figure out how they're going to do that with masks, or they're going to be required to wear masks, gloves. It's going to be difficult. Because I said Arizona is going to be too hot to do boxing fights. You're going to have to be indoors. It's going to have to be ventilated. You got to have the ventilators in there or something where, they can have these events. Baseball is different. I'm like, baseball could exist out there as an outdoor sport. So, they're outdoors. I mean, I don't know about them having fans in the stands and everything. Everybody sits close. But as far as the players playing without fans, they could actually happen in baseball. So
yeah, I mean, it's as far as that goes in general, I think there's a good chance in general. I also talked about that earlier on the podcast about him saying that the big fights is going to be tough if you're trying to the fights that need that revenue. Gate revenue really, really bad. Not to mention all the fights they got to make up, and they can't do a pay-per-view fight like that per se if they got to rely on the gate too. So it's like if you can't pack the stadium or the arena, you're going to be pretty screwed. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's touch and go, especially for like big fights in 2020. I think we'll get a variety of what you and I see as fun fights and exciting fights, and we'll be all happy about that and all that. But I do think, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to do that, no doubt about it. Some of the other stuff out there, obviously Devin Haney in the white boy comment. Crawford is saying he's the A side again with Spence. Wilder's talking about a bicep surgery, and you got Fred now saying that he was drugged in the fight, during the fight or right before it, Garcino, with no detail or nothing like that. Do you do a bunch of videos where you say, let's just, for instance, Wilder got drugged, right? And then let's say you do a 50-minute video and you talk about everything else, but you never explain how he got drugged. Would you think of that as a legitimate video there, sir?
No, I would not. I didn't know he did that. Man, Fred is something.
Somebody sent me it, and I had to listen to it. I tried to find like where he'd go. He'd go back to it. But he diagnosed Wilder with the coronavirus because he went to Italy. Because remember, he did have that flu where he went to the hospital. So at least you got some, okay, well, he went to Italy. That is true. He did get the flu because he did go to the hospital because he missed that, that media show up for the semifinal in Atlanta. Okay, well, at least you're giving me something. But then to say he got drugged, it's like, dude, what the how many, do you need to, if you love Wilder so much, why are you doing this to him? You know what I mean? It's already bad enough. It's already bad enough, Garcino, with all these excuses.
I don't even think Wilder is requesting this, like this to keep going. I'm like, he's probably like, look, I mean, I can see if this is something like, if you want your guy to get a fight or the bout to continue for the next, he's already got a rematch. The fight is already happening, so you don't even have to lobby for it anymore. I'm like, what do you want? We want the loss record off. I'm like, he lost. I'm like, he didn't even contest the loss. He lost. I'm like, he basically, it wasn't like a bad decision. He got stopped. And it was the right call. It makes no sense whatsoever. So I don't know where he's going with that. As far as the Devin Haney with the white boy comment, I really didn't see any, like, to me, I've heard Bernard Hopkins say it with Calzaghe, you know, he said the same thing, you know, and Calzaghe whooped him. So my thing is like, wait, when the white guy whoops him, now he's got to be in trouble. So I was like, normally people say that just to try to get an edge and all that stuff. We've seen that thing go left 100 times. We saw the guy with the Trump hat, and he was talking about the other guy.
Oh,
UFC.
yeah. The UFC dude. Yeah. And then he ran out the ring.
So,
yeah.
So I don't even understand why people want to try to make a big deal out of it. I mean, he took it back today. He's like, I probably shouldn't have made those comments. It's just something you don't say in the media.
And white boy is not a racial slur. Now, if he would have said, it would have sounded worse if he would have said, I would never lose to a cracker, and all white people are crackers. Well, okay, now we got something to talk about. But he said, I wouldn't lose to a white boy. But white boy is not
it wasn't coming from a racist place. And that's why I was like, he's not coming from a racist place. He's just really trying to be condescending to the opponent. Just like Bernard Hopkins was trying to be condescending to Joe Calzaghe. Just to minimize him. Like, I'll never lose to a white boy. But he knew all that talk. Joe has seen this show. I'm like, he's seen this show before. It's been, that's all he's fought. I was like, he's seen a lot of different things. Bernard was just, he had a good start, and that was the thing. Calzaghe was hurt going in the fight. But they know they couldn't cancel it. They had to take it. So he went into the fight. He got dropped early.
Either way, Joe Smith knocked him out of the, Joe Smith beat him in the last fight.
The last guy he lost to was a white guy who knocked him out.
Exactly.
You saw the bottom of his shoes. Knocked him out of the ring.
Yeah.
I
think he should have saved it. I think he should have saved it, Garcino. Like, why put it out when you don't have a fight sign? You're going to fight, there's a good chance you'll fight the winner of Campbell or Fortuna. And where Fortuna's in his career, a lot of people think maybe Campbell will sneak by him. So there's your white boy. And then ultimately, if you ever got to Lomachenko, then drop it. Then drop the white boy stuff. To me, it's just kind of like, is he trying to go heel? Or did he say it as a joke? The other thing to put into play, though, he already lost to a white boy in the amateurs twice. Two separate white boys from Russia and Ukraine. And I know some people will be like, oh, there's in the Ukraine that there's different heritages, so he's not. I'm talking about. We're talking about the American terminology for white boy. If you look at the dude, that's a white.
Nobody got time to break down where
we're not going to Russia. We understand that there's other
I'm like, blacks don't do that anyway. Blacks don't try to be like, hey, well, look, he's Polish Irish. We don't.
Right.
They don't do that anyway. He's white.
He's white. And he already lost to two white boys.
He lost to two of them, right. You're right. He did lose in the amateurs
twice. Yeah.
Yep. So I'm like, well, you already lost. But it's just trying to keep his name out there. He's trying to get some attention. He's young, brash, and it's fine and dandy until you get in the ring with a real monster, and then it ain't going to matter what color you are. You're going to get beat. greatness is greatness. I'm like, I won a lot of money because people didn't want to bet. They kept betting against the white boys. Like Joe Calzaghe won me a lot of money. So I
won some money on that Bicep fight. I won some money on that Bicep fight. I learned in the Roy Jones for a second. When I saw Roy drop him so early, I was like, wait a second. Hold on. What's going on? Who's what? Where? Like, there was some moments where I was thinking, well, if he did that, they did that. There was some mixture in there because Biop and Roy Jones obviously fight different styles and whatnot, and they both knocked him down early. To Calzaghe's credit, he got up, and obviously he was fresher than those guys. But either way, I think, like I said, he just said it at the wrong time, man. If you're gonna do that, do it when it freaking hurts, dude. You know what I mean? Do it when it's like at the timing.
That's what these young guys are doing now. The young guys want to fight each other like right away. You know, because like you got Garcia, he wants to fight like immediately. He's not letting anything materialize. He's like, look, let's fight. You know, let's get it on. And I'm like, dude, you got to let the fight like build up and materialize. You know, you guys are young. It's great that you want to fight each other, but you know, you got to make money in this. You guys fight now. You know, it'll have a little buzz, but not the kind of buzz that they want. Because they thinking like, look, let's just make pay-per-view. Let's get these things going.
Yeah.
You know, and Ryan Garcia, he got this big money. I'm like, Golden Boy is now obligated to keep you in big fights. But UFC contracts are structured differently. That's why you see Dana White really fighting to try to get this thing on. Because he's got to get these fights, you know, these fights contracts obligated because they're going to pay out more money, you know, if they can't get these dates. You know, I don't know why the contract is not saying, you know, in case of a natural, you know, emergency, you know, the contract it continues or it's frozen until we can get everything situated. Because I'm like, if the business is not open, I can't, you know, you can't hold me responsible for that. But you never know these days with these lawyers. Now, Andy Ruiz now has joined Canelo and Eddie Reynoso. He's joined Canelo's camp now, so that's who he's going to be training with from now on.
That's like official?
Yeah, it's official. He's going to join Canelo's camp. So Andy Ruiz is joining Eddie Reynoso and Ryan Garcia, and he's going to be training with Canelo and, you know, maintaining, staying in shape. So that's good.
Well, I'm happy for him on that one.
Yeah, I mean,
I like
think
that
it's a really
a lot.
good move for him because that move is what he needs for somebody to keep him focused. Bob Arum told me when he won the title, he said, I'm glad and happy for him because he said, I had a hard time managing him when I had him because he would win one fight, then he would balloon up in weight, and then try to cut down. And then he'll win a big fight, and then he'll look terrible because he didn't win up in weight. And it's just, he's like, it's been a struggle trying to promote him. So he's like, once he, you know, basically like let go the reins, you know, and now he started, you know, coming back and he got that knockdown over Joshua and, you know, that knockout, and that put him on a plateau. And now in the rematch, he made all that money.
Then he had a great summer. Then he had a summer. It's like a spring break summer.
Yep. So now he's just working hard. You don't want to let this hard work go down the drain. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, because I think he would have beaten Parker if he was in shape in that fight.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he had him beat. And I'm like, man, he won a lot of rounds.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost it could have been a draw anyway, you know?
Yep. And I'm like, man, if this guy that came in like with a serious camp, he could have really finished him. You know, so he's got his second chance now. So we'll see what he can be able to pull off. So
I got a question here for you. I got a two-part question.
All right.
This has kind of been going all over, you know, Twitter and boxing forums. I'm sure on YouTube I've seen a little bit too. Revolving around Terence Crawford. We'll leave that A-side stuff alone. It is what it is. We've already talked about that anyway in the past.
Okay.
But the Hall of Fame, okay? So, two-part question. Part of it, I mean, the basis is if Terence Crawford retired today, would he be a first ballot Hall of Famer? And it's a two-part question, and just hear me out on this. So, obviously, it seems like an easy answer, right? Because the first time, people go right to Arturo Gatti. Well, if Gotti's in there, he's in there. So the first part of the question seems like most people will say, well, he hasn't lost. He separated himself against solid guys like Gamboa, Postol, Horn, all that stuff, right? And some good vets like Felix Diaz and other stuff, right? But, right, so we got that, right? And 3 division champs, he's in the undisputed at 140. That just puts you in the Hall of Fame. But instead, so we can answer the first one, we all basically say, yeah, most people. But the second layer to the question, Carcino, is let's pretend Gotti's not in there. Let's pretend like a guy like Curry or some other guys that are on the ballot and should be in there, and some of the guys that should be in there that aren't in there are screwing other guys. It's like everybody's getting screwed because they can't even get on the ballot, and maybe some people that aren't even on the ballot should be in, but they can't get on the ballot because people that should be in are on the ballot. You know what I'm saying? So it's crowded, basically, is what I'm saying. So based off his wins, not necessarily weight class accomplishments or belt accomplishments, but based off his win, a 135-pound Gamboa, undefeated, Victor Postol, who is a better win than Indago in my mind. That was 1 against 2 in the division, and it was like 10-2, right? 11-1. He clearly, after that first round, he took over. And then whatever he's done for you at welterweight, whatever it's Horn or whatever, based off those wins, Gamboa, Postol, and let's say Horn right now is his best win at the division. Does that warrant a Hall of Fame? You could, the two-part question.
I think it's warrant the Hall of Fame for his whole career because he unified the 140 division. He won all 4 belts, and he beat the number 1 contenders in doing so. And when he was at 135, he beat the champion at 135, and then Mikey Garcia was the other champion, and he fled the division. Fled 135, fled 140, refused to fight Terence Crawford. And Danny Garcia said he was going to step up, but he took another route. He didn't want to fight Terence Crawford. So, to me, I think, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the number 1 fighter in boxing right now that isn't Floyd Mayweather. I haven't seen anything like Bud in a very long time. It's like he's not like Floyd. You can hit Bud, but he's got a clock in his head that just turns on, and he can turn into a fighter instantly.
And he's so
just
versatile,
too. Fighter. Oh yeah.
So versatile.
Yeah.
I mean, the southpaw orthodox. It just boom. It's seamless.
It's very seamless, and that's why. They're going to have to get this fight going soon, and they know it because the fighters want it too much. Errol Spence wants this fight very much, and so does Terence. So it's like, look, these two want to fight each other. Everybody else trying to put this label, BS, and all this stuff, and put their name on the banner. The fight is what's important. You don't want to mess up losing that. Plus, Terence Crawford is going to win that fight easy. It's going to look like the Thomas Hearn versus Martin fight. That's how brutal that fight is going to be for Errol Spence.
Hagler Hearn? It's going to look like Hagler Hearns?
No, it's going to look like Thomas Hearns versus Martin on that TV show when he had to fight Martin on the TV show.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he didn't even involve a boxer. Oh, wow, Okay, so it's a whitewash. Is he going to knock him out?
It's going to be a whitewash. I think it'll be a whitewash because Terence Crawford is going to lead the offense, and he's going to be trying to get Errol to come out of his shell. Errol's going to try to counterpunch Terence because he's a counterpuncher. And it's not going to work out for him. It's not. And whatever Terence liked to do, I'm not sure Errol can take it away from him to make him go into a plan A, plan B attack.
Sure.
You know, I think, and that's the difference between Errol and Terence. Terence has more variation in his offense. If something's not working, he'll go to 3-4 different angles and use different characters to get the job done. Errol is different. He's like a lunch pail and a bucket type of guy. You know, he's gonna, come in, not do too much, and land some powerful shots and let his power dictate, if he's any good or anything else. And he tries to drill you with power. He's very strong, so his thing is drill,
a lot of body.
Right. A lot of just power.
So two different examples. One, how Crawford fought Postol, where after that first run he went on the move. Now, Postol's not a come-forward fighter. Let's keep that in mind. But he went on the move, and, man, he really separated himself in that fight. Now, the other flip side of that, I saw a more patient, more measured fighter against Mikey Garcia. Now, Mikey Garcia was smaller. There is some holes there at welterweight, obviously. Wonder if Spence brings that more conservative approach at the beginning of the fight, and if he's going to push to like you said, Crawford pushing and try to open up Spence. Why didn't he try to do that against other guys like Postol and stuff? Instead, he went on the move. Was it because he knew Postol couldn't cut the ring off? Or I guess I'm wondering why you think it's such a whitewash.
Well, I think it's such a whitewash because Errol can't be offensive. Like his whole offense is dealing on counter shots, and his offense is. Everything is stagnated and very predictable. There's no real feint to come before he throws a punch. He's more falling in love with the brand name and all of the hoopla, and he's really good in his one element. So where no one's really pushed him until Sean Porter's last fight exposed the flaw that he got. He's been like living and getting by on having just all these things done for him. Where he could just, and people telling him he's so great, you don't have to do this or do that, you're just great, Errol. And he just stay in his one dimension. He's very good. He's flat-footed. He's got good balance.
He does have a standard approach. That is a good point.
Yeah, it's very standard. And the thing is that Terence has got speed. I think Terence is faster. And Errol is thinking in 3 rounds or whatever, I'll have you beat. And Terence is thinking in 3 rounds, that's when the game really gets started.
I'm going to have you figured out. Right.
Yeah, exactly. He'll have you figured out by then, and then he can make an adjustment if you try to capitalize on him. And it's just so much that he leaves in an interview that you could use and manipulate into your advantage. But I don't even think they need to do that for LeBron. I just think it was his time. I mean.
So,
Errol,
could I say something about the Gamboa fight, though? I mean, Gamboa put hands on Crawford in that fight, hurt him pretty bad. But I say,
that was at 35, and he struggled to make weight. That was like one of his last fights at 35 almost before he got out of there.
Yeah, you're right. I think it was the second to last because he did a belt drop and he moved up.
He was having a hard time making 35.
Right. 35 wasn't a great weight for Gamboa, though, either, if we're being honest.
Yeah, but he caught him, and he caught him when he was being reckless. He was trying to finish him, and he got caught with a good shot, and, now he could take the punches.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing up, the reckless part. That's why I brought it up, Garcino, because of the reckless part, because he did say that he's going to try to go at him. Obviously, it wouldn't be smart to be reckless against Spence, right? Or early on, anyway.
Exactly. So you want to make sure you had a respect, like, right away. But Errol is then this is why I know Terence will beat him. I mean, he see what I see. Errol telegraphs a lot of his punches. He rarely throws a feint. I mean, if you watch Errol Spence,
that's true. That is a great point. That is a great point. He rarely does. And don't get me wrong, I lean Crawford because of his versatility. I lean it. He's long too. He's got really long reach, underrated reach. I lean him. I'm just not. I'm not off the fence all the way like you. That's all.
Yeah, and that's me. I'm just all the way off the fence because habits.
Right.
You know, when I saw the habits, and the confidence level was good. Bud is very confident in his boxing ability. He's trying to stop everybody. He that comes on there and wants to challenge him. He really wants to stop them. And that's it. He's like, look, that's it. We stopped them. Good. Let's go. And that's just his nature, And with Terence, it's got the same killer instinct like Michael Jordan or somebody got. He just wants to take these guys out. And now he's not sitting at the big table, and that's another reason to make you mad. If you see everybody talk about the
Lakers. And he's the funniest after fights. He is the most plugged-in dude after fights. What he said, you got what you're looking for and all that shit. He's actually really funny after fights in that time frame. Well, I'm glad we had a good discussion on this. Anything else you want to talk about or anything before we move on to Portland?
No, that's pretty much was it. The Carcino for Life podcast is out there now. We got the Patreon Carcino for Life.
Patreon, yep.
That's very good. And, Carcino for Life on YouTube, we're doing pretty good.
That Patreon's looking mighty nice. That Patreon's looking mighty nice, I'd have to say. I would have to say that thing's looking mighty nice. I'll say that.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. It's looking very nice. But you deserve it. That's why I'm giving you a compliment. You know what I'm saying? It's awesome.
Yeah. You got to keep it going.
Yep. Just grind it. You just got to keep it going. We've had conversations off air where we talk about that person or that person, and they'll come and they go and they say this, but you just keep grinding, right?
You better believe it. So,
all right, buddy.
Now
we're going to make it through this stuff. We're going to have boxing on before you know it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been enjoying the fact that they got old games coming on. They got all the old fights coming on. It's been great.
Dude, 80s, 90s basketball, I've been just devouring, dude. I've been just devouring those playoff Lakers, Pistons, and Pistons, Celtics, and oh, man. And obviously, thank God we got the Jordan doc, too, or, the whole doc, whatever. The last dance. Thank God we got that, too, man. That's been great. All right, buddy. You take it easy, man.
All right, you too. Thanks for having me on.
Have yourself a good night.
I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Good night.
I'll holler at you for next week. Peace. All right, guys. Like you said, Carcino for Life. Got the Patreon up and going. All right, so I'm going to just continue. Beyond Portland, the folks that are on now, most of them I'm used to seeing, so what's up? Thank you for calling. But there are some in there that I'm not 100% used to seeing. So if you want to press 1, you can join in. Otherwise, Portland, I know you're there. Back to that Hall of Fame thing. The first question, The second question, it's tough, man. Does the eye test get you to the? That's why I don't have them pound for pound. Right now, the pound for pound, Lomachenko, Canelo, Crawford, Inoue. I mean, I'm saying top tier. Like, I have Spence in my top 10, but I don't have him in the top 3. So, I don't know. I don't know. And it's really just because he got a head start. Crawford, and because I think he's got better wins. I think Kell Brook and Porter are better wins than anybody Crawford's got. But it's about, I can't knock off Crawford though. I can't just drop him. But if he Pacquiao and but beats him, or if then he fought Thurman well, then yeah, dude, then I start to change it up. But I'm real old school in the way of, maybe stubborn is a better way to say it. I don't just hand over the pound for pound. It took me a while. Once Floyd was done, you had a guy like Donaire. You still had a Pacquiao, there. You still had Andre Ward, Kovalev, all this stuff, right? Golovkin, Canelo, blah, blah, blah. But when Ward beat Kovalev the second time, that's when I gave him for sure, hands down, pound for pound. So, yeah, I'm stubborn with it. That's all. I'm admitting it. And I got to say, if we're going to get, what we think the Hall of Fame should be, not what it is. What it is, it's the easy answer. But honestly, no, to beat Gamboa, undefeated Gamboa, no doubt. That's awesome. But is he I don't know, is he an A fighter at 135, lightweight? I mean, he got knocked on the floor how many times in his career at 130, 126? I mean, he beat Salido. That was a damn good win. Maybe he was an A fighter in that moment at 35, Maybe it is, Postall, damn good fighter. I think if he was an A fighter, he would have beat Taylor. And I said this before too. Taylor didn't separate himself like Crawford over Postall, so that's why I got Crawford so high. It's eye test and quality, and 140 only started popping when Crawford left, because then you're like, oh, who will win? We all know who was going to win. I mean, what he did to a solid fighter like Felix Diaz was damn impressive. So the eye test and just the separation, especially 140 and above, I mean, it's tough not to put him in the top three. It really is, even though Horn, Postall, and Gamboa is good enough to get in the Hall of Fame. I say no. In the same breath, I don't have a ton of fighters right now in the Hall of Fame that are active. I don't have Errol Spence in the Hall of Fame. I just don't. Now, the thing for me is, and this is what people are going to not like, but I just think let's put it this way. If he beat Porter and then lost to Spence, or let's say beat Spence and then lost to Thurman, or beat Pacquiao and then my point is, if he fought two top level guys at 147, beat them one and lost to the other, that would be enough for me to put him in the Hall of Fame at that point. And that may sound strange to some people, but if you fight Spence and beat him, you're in the Hall of Fame because it's another top 10 pound for pound fighter at the time. And then now the eye test. Now the three weight classes. What he did at 140 was very impressive. Postall was his best win. Felix Diaz was good. Delorme's pretty solid. Obviously, Ndongo was undefeated. I wasn't super high on him, and you could see after that fight, it's not like he destroyed Ndongo like a beating the full fight to where it weared him down. Now, he destroyed him in the fight with the body blow, right? He knocked him down that way, and he devoured him. But I'm saying, I don't think that fight took a bunch out of Ndongo. And look what Ndongo's done since then. Prograis took longer, but he beat him to the body. I don't look at Ndongo as a top level fight. I know he had 2 belts. I know he knocked out Travansky, but I didn't think a ton of that guy yet either. You got belts, great. Some people are like, Gamboa was a unified 130 because he fought Solis. Cool. But that was a vacant belt. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It's tough for me. None of these guys were in the top 10 pound for pound when he fought him. In my book, Gamboa hit the floor too many times for me to put him in the top 10 pound for pound. Postall had a nice couple wins. Then he beat Matisse. What has Matisse done since then? Maybe he took it out of him. He hasn't really looked great against anyone since Danny Garcia. Well, not Provodnikov. He did fight Provodnikov and looked pretty damn good. But remember, Molina looked pretty damn good, not that far off of that fight. Remember, he outboxed Provodnikov. So I know I'm stubborn. Maybe it's because I'm not, I used to think differently when it came to this. Over time, you start to go, you know what? Maybe my standard for Hall of Fame is going to go up. I'm not trying to pick on Crawford. It's not like I got his arch enemy in the Hall of Fame or something. And Spence, you know what I mean? So it is what it is. But yeah, as far as that Devin Haney, he lost twice to two white boys already. He had a damn good amateur career, obviously. It was like 130-something and 8 or some shit like that. Actually, let me see it. I had it someplace. I mean, and Haney, that dude's really talented, man. 138 and 8, but he lost to two white boys, in one from Russia, and I believe the other was from Ukraine. 100% quote me on that, but I'm pretty damn sure. So anyway, what do we got here? So yeah, I think I already went over the white boy thing. I understand the boy part of it. Saying boy to somebody that is a black person in America is a whole different thing than saying boy to anybody else. We all know that. Now, there's double standards and everything. Yes, if a white fighter came out and said, I'll never lose to a black fighter, a black boy, yeah. But the boy part would be different, though. So there is double standards, but if you keep going down that line, if you're going to complain about double standards, cool. And I hear that because there is. But why are there double standards? And if you answer that question honestly, it's a pretty easy answer. That's part of the whole thing. For every reaction, for every action, there's a reaction. You can't just think it's going to work itself out. It'll work itself maybe over time, but the boy thing is different. But I understand, and it's still an ignorant thing to say, of course. But honestly, I would have saved it if I were him. I would have saved it. Somebody called me out for. I mean, most people like when I read Rick Glazier tweets and posts because they're just funny. But somebody's like, "Oh, you ducked some shit." And I said I was going to read it next, but the show was running out. Okay, here's the post. So Rick Glazier is going. I could have sworn I did this at the end of last week, but I guess not. Rick Glazier, PBC money guy, flipped working for the feds. This was his post. And then this dude and this is 2017. Someone sent me this. Rick Glazier is going nuts on PBC, posting this Cadwell. And I remember this Cadwell, Ryan Cadwell. He was part of Waddell and Reed, and literally they wouldn't give, because it was in the Sports Business Journal, in that that article that King wrote early on, where a lot of answers could be, a lot of answers to people's vague questions from the media that they wouldn't answer were all in that, or a lot of it was in that original article. But he was talking about how it was basically a hustle, a scam, and Cadwell actually duped Waddell and Reed as well, but they openly said that without Cadwell on basically the premise for like a year supervising and just being there with Al and running it for a little bit with them, or, whatever, they wouldn't have given the money. So it's really funny, but he had to leave, he left the fund to join that, and then he was already working for a different fund, managing a fund, and still advising part-time. So he's acting like this Cadwell dude scammed Waddell and Reed when representative, they said it in quotes. You don't think they would have, you think they're going to say something like that and then try to scam them? Wouldn't they just shut their mouth? It's just kind of weird. But anyway, he was saying that basically he scammed them, both of them together, totally scammed them. Totally scammed them because he went to work as Heyman's chief guy, and now Cadwell's missing. Not one note of, Cadwell's whereabouts and all this rumors about the feds maybe hiding him. The feds were hiding Cadwell. as he could be very dangerous witness. And Cadwell knows everything that went on with Haney and the PBC. A highly educated, had a clean track record before involvement with Haney. Ooh. Very interesting development in the never-ending saga of Haney and his PBC blowing it up, right? So it's a big scandal that even though he said it straight up to people in quotations saying they said it in the article, enough people from Waddell and Reed and the PBC came forth and said that he's on the team because of this. So it was really like, what are you talking about? And Glazer, you can literally go at that time to LinkedIn and you just do a really quick search because the guy's successful. That Cadwell dude, and the fucking guy was already at it. You saw he was at a different firm, or managing a fund. I'm not saying the exact same thing, but basically what he's doing there. So he made this big conspiracy because he knows people, on average, even in the media or part-time media, is actually going to, do research. So he got off on that, and I remember, because he does this all the time, and I remember seeing this post, and I just laid into him. Like, what are you talking about, hiding and all this stuff? And then this post came out, and the post was Motor City Cobra. And like I said, I'm not calling this guy out, whatever, but not this guy, but just in general, right? The post or whatever. But he was never missing this, what he said. Glazer is some insider, right? But he didn't even know Cadwell left Waddell and Reed to start his own company after he had advised. And it said right here, he admitted later, and he said him meaning, Glazer. He admitted later in a Facebook post, when Christopher Carlson informed him, and according to someone who knows Cadwell, he had just updated his LinkedIn 24 hours before Glazer, writing that Cadwell had been missing all summer. In hiding, the feds got him hidden. And I didn't set this up or anything. I just called him out, and I remember him coming back at me going, "Oh, sorry, dude. I had no clue. That's my mistake, but it's still shady or something." And here's this guy that saw that post, and it was like, hey, and then somebody else sent it to me a little bit ago and said, "Oh, yeah," because I remember calling him out. And it was like, "Oh, well, what about this? What about facts?" And that's just how he is, dude. That's just how he is. But yeah, I keep going at this Glazer because, dude, F this guy, man. F this guy. All right, so I'm gonna go over some boxing Twitter tweets, right? Just a little bit of them, and then we're gonna go shut this down with Portland. We're gonna give them plenty of time. I want his takes on a variety of stuff. It's gonna be interesting. We're gonna close it out that way. Some of these tweets, dude. Well, here's one. Terence Crawford, and I've been on Terence Crawford a little bit, so I'm gonna read something that I noticed. Terence Crawford single-handedly ruined boxing. Like, what planet are you on, dude? Terence Crawford will be the reason the next generation of boxers think it's okay to fight subpar competition as long as you're collecting belts while doing it. Yeah, because that just happened with Crawford. This is an era where, the place, the time, you got to be blah, blah, overmatched opponents to get a belt. All of the belts he had at 140 were vacated not even 2 years before the Undisputed. That's just silly because you know how many when there's an Undisputed, they get vacated right away, most of them. A lot of times, it's just an ignorant thing to say. But it's boxing Twitter, so it's funny. The masses labeled this man a top 3 pound for pound. It doesn't have an elite name on his resume, but idiots think it's okay because he's calling people out. People need to consider that the fact that they say they don't mean all the time because he's calling out, basically. It just doesn't make sense right here. So calling him out means absolutely nothing if he didn't do it. Terence Crawford created, there it is, the end of it. Terence Crawford created the perfect blueprint for boxers to rob fans out of their money while pretending you're doing the best. There's a lot wrong with that. Now, of course, he did sign at a promotional company that was going to keep him away from welterweight. Or re-sign, I should say. Yeah, that's his fault, but come on, dude. Come on. So he's the first guy to do that. All right, sure. Any professional fighters you can beat. This is another one. Black Jesus in the boxing scene. See, I think a lot of these. I just realized a lot when I started doing the segment. I see these tweets and then I see a boxing forum be like, "Oh, is someone just copying and pasting or what?" But here it is. Any professional fighters you could beat if you had a. Is there any, basically, is what he meant. Is there any professional fighters you could beat with a 6-week training camp? Given 6 weeks to train, I'm sure I could beat Rocky Fielding, current version of Kovalev, Joe Smith Jr., and Chavez. I'm a 39-year-old, 170-pound fighter. I've sparred 100 rounds when I was 24 and 27, so 15 years ago, against San Francisco Bay Area competition. So this dude thinks he can beat Kovalev right now, Joe Smith, who's coming off a good performance. And he, come on. Like, this is where boxing Twitter's like, dude, what are you talking about? What's going on? Come on, dude. Just stop. Oh, by the way, some more news. This was on Twitter. Ticketmaster is changing policy and will no longer refund postponed shows. I know they're having some UK issues with this one. Here's Dougie Fisher on Twitter saying about Floyd, right? Name one boxer Floyd faced as talented, versatile, athletic, and well-rounded as Bud. Now, we can flip it on Bud, too, obviously. There's a reason why Floyd never fought Joel Casamayor and Stevie Johnson. I covered Floyd out of the 96 Olympics. He's a human being to me, not some invincible god like he is in a Generation Nut Hug. That's funny at the end, but so he ducked Casamayor, who's got clear defensive holes, and he ducked Stevie Johnson. He ducked those guys. He ducked them. And part of it is the Floyd thing, because some people out here are saying Crawford can beat Floyd. And it's not just the run-of-the-mill fanboys. They're fanboys. But, oh, by the way, there's some very sad news. This is on Twitter. Boxing lost the great Eddie Cotton. Here's somebody just tweeted it. Anyone who met Eddie loved him. As a referee, he was a fixture at so many big fights. I worked on Lennox Lewis and Tyson with him. R.I.P. Eddie Cotton. R.I.P. I definitely remember him as a ref. But dude, I mean, Haney got after. Gary Russell called people out saying, "I'm coming for everybody again. I'll punish Gary Russell when the lights come back on. I think he's capping. You can't hunt a hunter." That's what Devin Haney says. Haney also apologized. I forgot to mention that all the way. I'm not a racist. I'll never be a racist. I'm just chasing greatness, which doesn't really line up. But this is what because it's like, so you're chasing greatness by saying you'll never leave to a white boy that you already lost to? I don't get it. I just had a very positive conversation with Mauricio Solomon, president of the WBC, and confirmed to him directly my comment to be a role model and my absolute rejection of discrimination of any kind. So, obviously, sometimes when you say stuff, and here's the biggest one. So some dude on Twitter thinks that Lomachenko not only beats Juan Manuel Marquez, but he knocks him out. He stops him at 130, which is a damn good weight for Marquez as well. So, and this other dude, Range Rollins, he said, dude went 40-plus rounds with special shakes, no fear Manny Pacquiao. This quarantine has got people fucked up. I mean, come on. So you got Lomachenko stopping Juan Manuel Marquez? So is it going to go like Linares, where Marquez will put him on the mat, and then he'll get up and knock? Come on, dude. I love me some Lomachenko. I got him in the top 3. You can make an argument for number 1. I got Canelo number 1, but you can make an argument. I get it. He lost 2, but I get it. But he's stopping Juan Manuel Marquez. Oh, boxing Twitter. Sometimes it's just so funny. Oh, by the way, April 13th, 8 days ago, happy 420 yesterday, UFC filed 22 new trademarks for Fight Island and UFC Fight Island. The filings were made based on the intent to use Fight Island as the name of a mixed martial arts competition and branded goods and jewelry and stuff like that. So they're on that shit. Fight Island is coming one way or another. All right, I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to save the boxing Twitter segment. I didn't go too hard on Glazier, just a little bit. But I'm bringing it out because, well, whatever. I'm not going to keep going on this. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead out to Portland. Northwest Brethren, actually not Brethren because I'm not from the Northwest, but he is my brethren. Portland, 503. What's going on, buddy? How the hell are you? Maybe I jumped the gun. Maybe you're on mute. Not quite sure. I'm going to wait. Maybe you text me. I haven't been paying attention to my phone because I was reading tweets off of it. Maybe you're ready. I could have just went to you quick. I'm going to try to go to you again real quick. 503 Portland, what's up, man? How you doing? Portland, you there? All right, I'm going to burn some time. I'm going to see if he'll pop on. I just texted him, too. You know, he could be at work and just something comes up, so I understand. We still got like 9 minutes, 10 minutes, so you got plenty of time. Just give me a holler. Give me a holler. Here's another boxing Twitter segment, or, part of it. I always find it funny what people consider a champ or not, which I agree with that premise. Haney is more of a champion than Leo Santa Cruz and Tank, second reign, were at 130. And just as much of a champion as Keith WBA title was, as much as Charlo is now, Jamal. The only problem is resume. If we don't care about belts, if we're on the who cares about what's considered a champ or not, I get that. I agree with that part. But to say Haney is more of a champion than Santa Cruz and Tank, second reign at 130, than him at 130, well, yeah, they're vacated or made up interim belts and all that. But dude, you can't. I mean, he got it handed to him too, though. So how are they more of a champion? He's more of a champion, Haney is, than Keith Thurman was at the WBA because it was a secondary title. But who they beat? That you got to bring that into it too. All right, I'm gonna go up to Portland. What is going on, man? How you doing?
Mexicanos al grito de guerra, el lancero abre esta y el gritón, y retiembla en sus centros la tierra al sonoro rugir del cañón.
What up, Chris? I'm doing good, man. It's a beautiful day in Oregon. Still corona-free since day one. How's everything going, Chris? How you doing, brother?
I'm corona-free, at least, as far as not feeling it all that much. You know what I mean? We could have had it and we don't have it anymore or whatever, but yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm hanging in there for sure.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother. Like they say, the news says no symptoms are one of the symptoms. So take that in mind. Right. But as far as boxing, brother, you had the question of is Terence Crawford Hall of Famer? You already know, bro. I know, 100% know. He's got accomplishments. I'm not going to deny that. What he did at 140 is pretty good. He took care of business there, got all the belts, moved on to 147. But it just seems to me, like, in my honest opinion, he's not fooling me. He's got the best win, in my honest opinion, it's got to be Victor Postal. I still don't think he's done enough at 147. He's got a belt But you know, you got it from Horn, and actually, in all honesty, too, man, I'm not gonna lie, but I don't really watch Terence Crawford fights just because of who he is, and you know the reason, Chris, why. But to me, I actually went back and watched one of the Horn the Horn Terence Crawford fight, and and he got touched up. He put him away, but the thing is that you could say that's his best win at 47. Not Amir Khan. Amir Khan slashed him off the fucking list. This is in 2009. That was 2019, Amir Khan. So, fans should really look into that. But, for some reason he got some sort of credit for that shit. But as far as that, no, a simple no. But he still has a lot to prove. And in all honesty, too, he's at a good part. For that division, he's at a good part just because. Spence, I believe, people are forgetting that he got in a car crash not too long ago. And, I believe I believe he's damaged goods, man. Like, that's my opinion. So I believe Terence Crawford would get that win now, just because what happened with the accident. Because we have to see where Errol Spence is, with this whole thing. And in all honesty, too, man, the whole everybody's talking about the Spence Crawford fight. They want this fight to happen. To me, if it happens, it happens. But I'm not, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. That's just my opinion. Like I said before, Errol's got like a fucking ocean full of fighters he could pick, out of. He can make interesting fights out of the PBC realm. And as far as Terence Crawford, he's just going to keep looking back to the eyes of the hardcore fans. Obviously the Crawford fans will be there and support. The ESPN guys will be there and support. That world will be there. But as far as that, I think Errol Spence is going to come out smelling like roses out of this too, man. So in all honesty, too, man, just the way I've seen Spence lately, he looks tremendously heavy. Once I saw him kind of hitting the mitts and everything, I wouldn't mind him just forgetting about 147 and just move up. You know what I mean? Move up to 54, 60. I think that would make a big wave in boxing. Just forgetting about Crawford, just because Crawford, he's not gonna anytime soon, do anything. So I'm not even looking at Crawford right now, man. I'm not looking at that realm. I don't think Bob was on the interview with the Box Voice recently, and he said all the cards lie on fucking Terence Crawford. It's his decision who he wants to fight. So if no fights happen after this whole thing is over, if he continues to fight fucking green machines and fucking retired boxers like Kell Brook or Amir Khan, then it's on him. Blame Terence. Bob has gone in interviews saying that he holds all the cards. It's his, it's the Terence Crawford show. So, if nothing happens, it's all on Crawford, man. So, but yeah, as far as him, you're saying Hall of Fame,
well, he's definitely
no.
not the A side, that's for sure. I disagree with some of the stuff he said, but he's definitely not the A side in that fight. And he keeps saying he is. And it feels like Bob did say they kind of got narrowed down some things as far as details in that fight for the future and with him and Al, and he's definitely not the A side.
Yeah, we know that, man. There's I believe even at this point, I believe fucking Porter's the A side. I know a lot of people will disagree, but I believe they should I think even Porter's above him and Danny. I think Danny is still the A side above Terence Crawford. That's my opinion. So don't chop me up for that.
Yeah,
Danny, but
as far as popularity and ticket sales, for sure, Danny's Danny A side wise, I think Danny Garcia, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about A side. What else you want to talk about?
No.
We don't want to burn your time just on Crawford. Eddie Reynoso adding Eddie Ruiz, Devin Haney. What do you want to talk about?
Oh yeah. Yeah, Devin Haney too, man. It's funny, man. This is definitely a new world, bro. Like if you're complaining about what he said, I have, I don't think it holds weight as far as racism. But Chris, you can clear that for me because I'm not white, Mexican. So you know, I mean, it's really, you know, to me, I'll believe you. You know, it's your. I believe you said you weren't offended by it, so you know, I'll go by what you say, bro, because these are different times, man. I don't know. Anything little thing you could say will be the end of the world.
I've gotten a lot of compliments. I've gotten a lot of compliments that ended with white boy too. So it can be looked at as a very positive thing at times.
Yeah. And also, too, man, he's no regular white boy, bro. He's from Europe, man. He's a Eastern European, man. If he was like a Chris Algieri or fucking whatever, your typical white boy American, you know, he'll eat any of those dudes up. But this is, you know, Lomachenko's Ukrainian. You know, I mean, these Eastern European dudes could fight, man, and he should really be watching what he says, man, because those dudes could fight.
Right, in Europe and all that, there's a lot more white fighters, so I can see